CHEGAR and PARTIR is an exhibition dedicated to the very important Portuguese artist RUI, born in 1966, who was over the last 30 years, and actually a little bit more than 30 years, as I believe the earliest work in the exhibition is dated 1989, RUI has developed a very singular body of work. It's a sculpture. It's actually a sculpture that has almost reinvented the presence, the role of the hand, of the making in his work. The exhibition itself, as I say, covered more than 30 years of work. Though it's not really a retrospective that would cover all the works that the artist has done or would have the ambition to be somehow exhaustive. The work the curator Inés Grosso has done with RUI is really going to the core of the work. And the practice of RUI, which is again this way of dealing with metal, to really have a very hands-on practice, goes beyond that, beyond the object. The exhibition has different moments. Actually, the artist has produced 3 new works for the exhibition. One is installed at the entrance of the museum, one that is installed way behind me at the end of the corridor that you see behind me, and one that will stay permanently in the CHAFES Park, which is an underground chamber hosting one sculpture. The exhibition itself, which is very pure, very precise in its making, shows us how the artist is thinking of his work and how the work itself develops almost what are the purest, the smallest common denominator of sculpture, which is how sculpture, how an object react in space. Basically, a sculpture is a form in space, a form that you can go around, that you can experience from as many sides as possible. You will see also that this exhibition really focuses on this moment of perception of one object in space. The first room of the exhibition will actually slow you down. You will enter absolute obscurity until this obscurity becomes transparent, until your eyes adjust to the obscurity so that you can see not only the work hanging on the walls and the work that are radiating light, but the entire room. And just this work, I think, is a really good way to understand how RUI work. It's a work that is about attention of the world, attention to the world, attention to the object. There are like studies in the world that show that people, when they come to museum, spend less than 10 seconds in front of a work of art, painting or sculpture. This first work, when you enter RUI exhibition, actually slows you down. In order to really perceive the work, you have to enter the obscurity, and obscurity becomes matter, like metal is matter in his work. It slows you down, and after 5 minutes, you are able to perceive your surroundings. So what does it tell us? It tells us that if we take time, if we slow down, if we pay attention, we see better, we perceive better, not only the space, not only the sculpture, but eventually the world around us and people around us. In this exhibition, you will notice that one element is omnipresent, though as a contradiction absent, the body. Our body. You will see when you enter the room with the shoes that this missing element is almost overexposed. There is an aspect of this exhibition which is also very moving, the room of drawings. It's moving first because the artist very, very rarely shows his drawings that are almost like a journal. These drawings are extremely organic, at times even a little bit disturbing. But you can see with these drawings exactly where the work comes from. Attention to details, attention to botany. It's not only the human body, but the body of nature. Sexuality is present, collage is present, his attention to the world is present. And one of the details, which is also an important one, is that the color you see on these drawings is not the color of paint or art material. It's the color of medical fluid that the artist is using on this drawing, bringing back again with this notion of medication, this notion of medical fluid, the notion of body fluid, and the notion of the body that is often adjusted by RUI's sculpture. As if the sculpture, some of the sculpture, you will see one in the park in which you can sit, is almost an add-on to the body. So as you will walk through this exhibition, through the park where RUI CHAFES has installed a group of sculpture to be discovered, again, this notion of perception, attention to perception, the sculpture in the park are almost hidden. You have to hunt for them, you have to pay attention, you have to see them almost from the corner of your eyes. But the exhibition, the objects in the exhibition are, I would say, pregnant with an absolute knowledge of the history of art, the history of sculpture. RUI CHAFES is someone who has fully digested not only the history of modern art, the history of modernity, the history of modern sculpture, but also whose work goes back to very maybe archaic moment of sculpture, of object making, when tools were handmade. In the way he works might send us back to this very, very early years in the history of humanity when humans were making their tools. You will see through the title of the work, you will see, if you spend time with the work, that in the work are embedded his knowledge of literature, his knowledge of cinema. One of the first works that you see when you enter the museum is called Balthazar, and it's a tribute to the movie by the French filmmaker Robert Bresson from 1966, actually the year RUI CHAFES was born. There's not a very direct relationship, it's not illustrative, but you could see, you could feel this influence in the work. You will hear his interest and knowledge in music, in spoken word. You will see in the exhibition this series of masks made out of steel, of metal again. They are both adornment of the body and close to object of torture. In the exhibition, and we see that very clearly in the body, or the discomfort that from time to time we experience. Let's say, look at the work behind me. In order to process the work, to go through the exhibition, you actually have to go around the constraint that the artist has put in the way. You have to bend over, you have to negotiate the space around you. And in this exhibition, at times, you have to negotiate this notion of constraint created by the work, but also of pleasure, also created by the absolute perfection and beauty of the sculpture that RUI CHAFES makes available for us. Part of the exhibition will have also a collaboration with the dancer and choreographer Vera Montero. So but also, by that, you understand that this work, this practice, really crosses many disciplines that are absolutely central, not only to understand his work, but to understand 20th century art. I want to go back to this idea of the first room, the room that makes you slow down when you enter. I think it's a very important room, at times a disruptive room, but what this room forces us to do again is to slow down. We are accelerating all the time. We are bombarded by image, by message, by digital technology. And somehow, without being a Luddite, RUI CHAFES is extracting us from this world in order for us to see the world.